Modern history books teach us to see the Middle Ages and the Renaissance as small, familiar, and fully understood chapters of human history. According to this view, the world ended neatly at national borders, and anything beyond them existed only in superstition and religious fear. But this comforting picture may be misleading. Ancient maps, especially those created before the age of global exploration, are often dismissed as artistic curiosities. Scholars explain the presence of monsters and strange creatures as a result of horror vacui, the supposed fear of empty space. When cartographers didn't know what existed in a region, they simply filled it with decorative beasts. Yet this explanation raises an uncomfortable question. If medieval mapmakers were capable of charting coastlines, rivers, and mountain ranges with remarkable precision, why would they suddenly abandon accuracy when depicting life in the oceans? Navigation was not a game. A mistake at sea could cost an entire crew their lives. False information would not have been harmless decoration, it would have been lethal. To sailors of the past, maps were not art. They were survival manuals. When sea creatures appeared on parchment, they may not have been meant as fantasy, but as warnings. Markers of danger. Signals that certain regions were not simply unknown, but forbidden. In this forgotten worldview, the ocean was not an empty highway for trade. It was a hostile realm, an alien environment filled with powerful life forms that humans struggled to survive alongside. Creatures described as sea serpents, sirens, and leviathans may have represented real biological threats, remembered today only through myth. Ancient thinkers believed in what could be called a mirror principle. Every land animal, they claimed, had a counterpart in the sea. Older, larger, and more dangerous. This belief gave rise to names like sea bear, sea cow, sea pig, and sea elephant. Modern science sees these labels as imaginative guesses. But another interpretation exists. What if the oceans once hosted a parallel biosphere? A realm where evolution followed different rules. Where pressure, darkness, and time shaped life into forms that no longer exist or no longer surface. Some of the so-called hybrids drawn on medieval maps may have been remnants of an earlier biological age, survivors of catastrophic environmental shifts long forgotten. One document stands above the rest in its disturbing detail, the Carta Marina, created in the 16th century by Olaus Magnus. Today, it is celebrated as an artistic masterpiece filled with fantastical imagery. But viewed through another lens, it appears less like a work of imagination and more like a classified report. On land, everything looks ordinary: hunters, animals, settlements. Nothing suggests madness or fantasy. But the seas tell a different story. The waters surrounding northern Europe swarm with massive creatures, each carefully placed and often described with notes about size, behavior, and danger. This was not random decoration. Some entries describe creatures so large that sailors reportedly mistook them for islands. According to these accounts, crews would anchor their ships, light fires, and rest only for the land beneath them to awaken and sink, dragging everything into the depths. Read not as legend, this resembles an account of extreme biological camouflage. A massive organism evolved to mimic terrain itself. Other illustrations show sailors using sound, horns or trumpets, against approaching creatures. Historians call this superstition. But sound travels efficiently through water. Many marine animals rely on vibration and acoustic perception. What appears naive may have been an early form of acoustic defense, learned through deadly trial and error. Specific locations are often named. Specific years recorded. These details suggest recurring encounters, not isolated myths. The ocean, as shown on these maps, was not empty. It was contested territory. Even more unsettling is the economic layer hidden within these documents. Some sea creatures were associated with valuable substances: oils, resins, fats, and compounds used for medicine, lighting, and industry. Rather than accidental discoveries, these resources may have driven organized hunts. The monsters were not merely feared. They were harvested. Over centuries, systematic exploitation could have erased entire populations of gigantic marine life. What we now call myths may be echoes of an industrial slaughter that predated modern science. As global trade expanded, the ocean became quieter, safer, and emptier. Not by accident, but by design. If creatures capable of destroying ships truly existed, their removal would have been necessary for the modern world to emerge. Global navigation, undersea cables, and mass shipping require a pacified ocean. And so the question remains: did humans erase these competitors themselves, using lost knowledge and forgotten technologies? Or was the planet altered by forces we no longer remember? What is certain is this: medieval maps may not be fantasies. They may be the last surviving records of a world far more dangerous, alive, and uncontrollable than our own. The silence of today's oceans may not be natural peace. It may be the quiet of something that was deliberately removed. Ancient maps do not shout this truth. They whisper it. From the margins we were taught to ignore.